Hey, how's it going? I want to apologize to you guys for not uploading since Christmas. And this might be a crappy excuse. This might make me sound apathetic towards this channel, but I've been working on other things, and it's a lot of ideas, or just projects that aren't the sort of thing that I can upload on this channel. It's not Sasquatch related. And I feel like a lot of subscribers would just be like, what the hell? This isn't what I subscribe for. But I think I'll start a second channel to talk about these things. Because it is interesting. And it's kind of above my pay grade. But for some of these ideas, I might be onto something. And I don't know how they'll be received. Because, again, they're a bit grander than a man of my stature should be talking about. But like new currency systems, microgravity. I thought of an idea for how microgravity might be possible. How to stop a bunker buster. And I don't know how it'll be received, but I think I'm onto something. So I might as well upload it. And all these ideas, I've talked pretty extensively with every AI model I can find, or every AI system, Grok, DeepSeek, ChatGPT, and they agree. So the only thing I can really do now is just put it out in the public and see what people think. But again, not Sasquatch related, and I'm sure a lot of you don't really care. So I'll have to start a second channel for that. But I figured I'd come on today and make a video about something I've been thinking about. And about a week ago, I watched the new David Pilatus movie, American Sasquatch, or American Bigfoot. But anyway, it's this new movie that goes into the supernatural phenomena and the high strangeness events surrounding Sasquatch encounters. And a lot of that stuff has been the sort of stuff that's been on my mind since my first experiences with them. And I think I have a pretty good idea to what these beings are. Obviously, I don't know for sure, but this is just my best guess. In terms of labeling them, how I kind of label them in my head, I see them as feral Abremelin giants. I do believe they're the same giants that ancient civilizations have talked about, especially in the Bible, in Exodus. Caleb and Joshua, when they went into Canaan and they brought back their reports, they talked about giants that made men look like grasshoppers, and eventually they fought them and chased them out. But these were like Goliath and his brothers, King Og, they measured his bed at over 13.5 feet. They called them the Rephaim, they called them the Anakim. But whatever those things are, I think they're the same things as Sasquatches today. And part of that reasoning is either in the Book of Enoch or the Book of Giants. I can't remember the verse, but I remember reading it, and it said something along the lines of the giants would be driven into the wilderness and the valleys by the swords of men. Something along the lines of that. But that seems to match, what these Sasquatch beings are, or just a lot of that seems to just parallel with what these beings are. But in terms of their abilities, the abilities that are reported also seem very, very similar to what's reported with the Abremelin ritual. Now, the Abremelin ritual, it's a pretty famous ritual. There's a movie about it called A Dark Song or something like that. But it's a multi-month ritual that can last anywhere from 2 or 3 months to over a year long. And you're basically just in a constant effort and constant discomfort, constant pain, doing these rituals to eventually bring your higher guardian angel to contact you and impart in you strange supernatural abilities. Things like clairvoyance reading minds, influencing minds, levitation, invisibility. I can't remember all of them, but they are very, very similar to the supernatural and strange phenomena regarding Sasquatch encounters. Now, in terms of my experiences with them, I've talked about in other videos, but a couple of the main ones where the closest I ever got to mind speak was I'd set up this like tabernacle of garbage bags. I took a paracord and wrapped it around multiple trees and then just draped garbage bags over. And because I have a thermal camera, I could duck underneath the garbage bags and I could look right through the garbage bags with my thermal. But I remember I was in my tabernacle screaming insults, and I hear a super loud wood knock, like right in the brush where I can't see. But the moment I hear that wood knock, there's like a message that came into my head with it, saying, we know what you're trying to do, and it's not going to work. And that's the closest I ever got to mind speak. But there were other things, like my most prominent encounter, I heard them tearing down multiple trees, tearing through the brush. But once it ended, it just stopped. Now, like on the other side of this creek where I heard everything getting torn down, it's nothing but dense underbrush and trees. Like it would be impossible for anything to walk through that and not make a ton of noise. Now there were some like things that happened before the commotion started, where it was obvious they were around, like wood knocks. I saw something move down the creek and like the trees moved, but once it stopped, it's like they just disappeared. It's literally like they just teleported away and just disappeared. And like that's what makes it feel more surreal than anything, because it just, you can't explain that. You can't explain it just stopping. But to me, that was like them just teleporting away. And then I had another encounter with a strange light going over my car right as I was going to sleep. And I thought they were headlights at first because they were super bright. And there was a super bright light shooting into my car. But and it was kind of going slow up the road, but then it just went right over my car and disappeared. But that's, those are the closest encounters or there's another one I remembered. I haven't talked about this one yet either. Oh man, this is hard to explain because I have to tell another story. So one night, I'm pretty sure I met a Fed. It wasn't Sasquatch related. It was the horror movies I was writing, the horror screenplays I was writing and sending to people that were pretty terrible. Just the most horrible thing I can admit. Like I was writing horror stories that were the most horrific things I could possibly conjure in my mind, and I was sending them to people. And I'm pretty sure a Fed showed up one day at my campsite and just kind of interrogating me, acting like my friend. But anyway, after the Fed showed up, I think I hung out with them for one day. That's a whole other story. But anyway, eventually I just left that campsite, went somewhere else. And I was at this other campsite, and so I wasn't even at a campsite actually. I was right along the side of the road, and I was sitting in some shade, and there was like a field and like a patch of trees. It was like not even an acre, like it was just like a small patch of trees. And I heard what sounded like a stump get torn apart, So when I heard that, I thought it was a black bear. So I went over to that patch of woods because I hadn't seen a black bear yet, and I was really excited to see a black bear. And I walked all through that patch of woods, like everywhere. It was probably closer to a quarter acre. It was a tiny little patch of woods, and there was nothing. There was no large mammal, no nothing. Like I couldn't even find a stump that was getting torn apart. So I leave that patch of woods, and as I'm walking back to my car, it starts again. I think it was a Sasquatch fucking with me, because you got to remember, this whole time I'm just screaming insults at these things, and I'm trying to do everything I can to piss them off. and I'm mainly at this one campsite where I had my main encounter. Then the Fed shows up, and I have to go somewhere else. I have to find somewhere else to sleep. And then that happens. It's like they were telling me. It's like they were delivering a message to me, you know. But those are my supernatural encounters with them. And I'm going to say one more thing about teleportation. There are human examples of teleportation happening. The most famous one is Gil Perez in the 16th century. He was a Spanish guard in the Philippines, in Manila. And this was right after the Prime Minister of the Philippines had been assassinated. And he was on watch, and he took a short nap. But when he woke up, he was in Mexico City. And the officials in Mexico City just thought he was a crazy dude who stole a Spanish uniform. And he told them everything. He told them about the Prime Minister, and they just threw him in jail. And a couple months later, Spanish officials from the Philippines show up in Mexico City and confirm everything that he said. Not only that, but they confirmed that he was missing. And that is a historically documented case of teleportation. There are other stories too. The most notable I can think of is, or the most famous story I can think of, was an Argentine doctor in the 60s who was driving with his wife through rural Argentina, and they hit a patch of fog, and when they emerged on the other side, they were in Mexico. So, you know, there is weird things that human beings have done that align with Sasquatch activity. But these beings' strengths, these beings' abilities, or their spiritual understandings, it's probably similar from like their physical strength to ours, you know? So like the greatest shaman, the greatest spiritualist to ever live is probably like a little kid compared to these beings. But that's my guess to what they are. And I have to make a video. And again, I apologize to you guys for not uploading. I do have an expedition planned. I would have freaking done it this week, but somebody didn't pick me up. Somebody who subscribes to this channel. And yeah, he fucked me. You fucked me, Alex. You fucked me. And that's about it.